All right, cool. Well, we're live and we're talking about Noodles and Company. We're glad you could make it. It is 18 minutes after the hour. This broadcast is brought to you by B483. We've got Aaron Kennedy in the studio today. Aaron, what made Noodles and Company an attractive opportunity for you back in 1995? Who can answer this question for poor Aaron?
It was a fast-growing market.
Yeah, it was.
It was like the fastest-growing market in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super fast-growing. That was I like that.
I feel like that was also kind of a risk because ones that explode, have explosive growth, sometimes crash just as fast.
Yeah.
Let us all remember the cupcake industry. That's over.
I was never a part of that industry.
I contributed so much. I have no idea why that would have failed. So, yeah, it was an attractive industry. It was fast-growing, which I liked. And I think also what attracted Andrew to Noodles and Company was that he had experience in the space. Like he had done marketing for Lunchables, so he knew how to do food, I think. And while it doesn't necessarily translate to restaurants, I think that's kind of where his wheelhouse was.
I agree.
Anybody else have any answers about?
Sorry, you said wheelhouse was, and I was thinking of a house with a wheel in it, and you lost me. What do you mean by wheelhouse?
His comfort zone. It was.
He's used to it. He's familiar with it. Okay, his wheelhouse.
It played to his strengths.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Okay.
I understand what you mean.
Perfect.
Never heard that used.
Well, I agree with everything that was said, and that's what I have. But right now, when you said that, like, it was his experience, and like you pointed out, like he's got marketing experience and whatnot. But it just came up to mind that how I feel like he was passionate about this, and he so he left Pepsi as a great job or great, he had a great opportunity with Pepsi, but he didn't feel like it was aligned with what his. So I feel like all of that, the growing segment, the good concept, and just how passionate he was, is what I feel like.
I think that's another contributing factor was, I think it was already said, was the market was open at that time. It was a new niche that became available. People were like, we would like to eat this more. It became a trend. People wanted to eat noodles. And it opened up a great opportunity for just grow and explode because everybody was looking in for this and were willing to go out and spend money at his restaurants.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that he pointed out in the case was that noodles were a very universal food.
Emperors.
Emperors and peasants, comfort food and street food. So there's a large market, potential market segment there.
And there's a very low barriers of getting into that market. It's not like an industry where you have to purchase huge machinery or invest more than any other. Like, it's a very low cost market.
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Okay. So what caused the company's early struggles? Aside from the food being bad.
I was going to say the food wasn't great.
Yeah.
And I think they needed to improve their operations.
They needed to standardize a lot more.
Yeah, they had...
standardize good things, not standardize bad food.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, because based on Kennedy's research, right? He was running 2 locations at once. It was kind of like an A/B test. He was running one in scenic Madison, Wisconsin, and another one in the Denver area, right? Pueblo. So yeah, that's kind of 2 separate markets, I would imagine. Pueblo is probably a little bit more upscale than Madison. What else? How else did Noodles and Company struggle?
Yeah, it just takes time. I mean, once you enter that market, it just takes someone going there and then going out and telling a friend, and then that friend has to go around and go on if your feud's not very good, like we talked about. You just have slow to bring people in to get all the kinks out and to make sure it's working. Yeah, it just takes time.
Well, I think also with us, saying that it's a fast-growing segment and it was growing really quickly, but they didn't have enough capital. They didn't start with as
They
much
underestimated
capital.
how much capital they would need to get it going. Like really, truly get it going. Not just, yeah, our doors are open and we served 2 people that were family members kind of open.
Yeah, undercapitalized is an interesting phrase because the way they presented it in the context of the case made it sound like that was a nice polite term of them saying, hey, we're running out of money.
Yeah.
Especially since they had followed that up with, hey, we're losing, they lost, $42,000 in the first 3 months.
Yeah.
And a lot of that had to do with their accounting and reporting systems not actually being able to tell them that. I was like, well, hey, if you guys weren't losing money so quickly, or if you knew what money you were losing, you could have made these changes a lot quicker. So, I think that speaks a little bit to what you were saying, buddy, about the operations aspect of it. But certainly, I think they also needed more money to do what they needed to do.
I think part of it is they weren't set up. 2 things that they did that they had changed was they made it a better dining experience. So not just the food quality, but they made the whole experience a little bit better. They could sit down sooner as soon as they bought it. They could. They had a table with their number. Like that, they helped develop a better process, and it didn't take until like the 3rd store where they're like, okay, now we know what to do. We fixed the kinks, and now we can be more profitable with this location than the other locations.
Right. They also repainted the restaurant too. Like they sneaked in overnight and redecorated it. To make it a little bit more warm and comfortable inside.
Lively.
Yeah. Let's see. So why do you think they struggled? So that's kind of what they were. The struggles. Why do you think they had so many struggles?
I think that a part of he had to figure it out. I mean, they had 2 stores they were running, but they didn't really have a set menu of like good food they wanted. They hadn't really gone out and said, okay, these foods are really good. They hadn't tried it they hadn't done as much background work. They kind of had the store going like, okay, now we're serving food. And they hadn't tested if their food was good or people liked their environment. They just kind of went with what they had. And they pivoted quickly, and that's what made it successful. That's why they struggled, is they just kind of went in blindly and said, all right, let's start. So that's what I think.
Yeah. So they kind of just went in a little bit by the seat of their pants, is what you're saying.
But they pivoted just fine, so it ended up being good for them.
Yeah.
But they did that.
Yeah, I definitely think they reacted quickly, like hiring 4 managers for one location, to ensure full coverage at all open hours in front and back of the house. That was important. So yeah, like you mentioned, they recovered very well. So as far as growth goes, what role should franchising play? Should they do it?
I don't think so.
Ken votes no. I vote yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Okay. Well, I'll have the yeses go first, so it doesn't seem like we're ganging up on Ken.
You can't.
I think probably the biggest metric that persuaded me to vote yes was that um, franchisees open 3 stores for every one company-owned store. So by going by that model, if they have 58 stores in uh, 2003, I think the case was. I don't remember actually.
Well, it started in 2003, but it
Yeah,
said they had it at 2002. They had 58 restaurants.
yeah, okay. So,
So,
so 2002, January 2003 is when the case is. So if they immediately franchise and they follow that model, that boosts them up to over 200 stores, which gets them well on their way to the goal for 2006. And that way they can spend their time growing the work of the franchise. Maybe keep, their 58 stores, have like 1 or 2 flagship stores where they can test new recipes, test new concepts, and so on. But basically spend their time growing the franchise, identifying, profitable markets, or reaching out for potential franchise owners in that area, and just work on that. So,
I said yes because I looked up their finances. I
mhm,
made my little spreadsheet thing. Um, but because like just on their own before any franchising talk came around, they were doing all right. I mean, their sales were consistently going up, and their expenses kept dropping, which was a good thing. Their
mhm,
net income had a lot of growth down here at the bottom. So I don't know. I feel like if you're having um, that much positive growth, as long as you hire the right people and you get the right people to open franchises, I mean, why wouldn't you?
mhm.
I mean, you don't want people who are idiotic to open these and drive your brand into the ground, but as long as you're kind of selective about who can open up a franchise at first, I feel like that's the way to go.
Mhm.
so I didn't really crunch numbers. I apologize, but my thing was just the whole. If they can focus in getting franchises, I mean, it'll help them achieve their goal. I don't know. I mean, they could achieve their goal without it, possibly, but that's a very ambitious and uh, I don't know what's the other word, like goal. That's a lot of
Mhm.
stores and in the years that they're trying to open them, and I just think that their focus, if they do franchises, it'll reduce like the amount of money that they need to try and raise, the capital that they need to try and raise to open these stores, and they can focus more on the customer, like that's what he wants, and focus more on the whole operations and the whole, making the culture of the company. Like he's so focused on the culture and making that, like Heather said, like a strategize, or what did you say? Like do a standardized strategize, standard everything. And so I think he'd be I think he's got potential in doing that. And like if
Mhm.
you were to able to standardize everything and then have franchise just follow that. And I mean, I know when I learned about franchises before, as someone looking into buying a franchise, it didn't seem like, it kind of deterred me. Like it was kind of like one of those things that, oh, the people selling the franchise have more advantages.
Mhm.
So now I'm on the other side looking at it at their point. I'm like, well, maybe they can use it to their advantage. And so if people are willing to buy their franchise, then
Mhm.
why not?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as a franchisee, it's almost like you're paying somebody for the privilege of having a job. as opposed to running your own business.
Right.
Which I think is different than the model that Noodles and Company was using as far as having somebody at the door, as far as
I'll be right on it.
giving their general managers equity stakes in the restaurant. I think that's a little bit different ownership model, and maybe a more successful one. Ken, why did you vote no?
The reason I voted no was because I feel like they have, I feel like they're so busy trying to grow, and I think that you guys have a lot of good points about they can grow faster, they can take and focus on different areas of their company, they can standardize things, but like if you're gonna have a franchise, you give up a lot of control. Like you still keep control, but you give up a lot of control of the company, and keeping the culture there becomes more difficult. It leaves room for people to kind of just sit back and not actively focus on growing the company. They kind of just sit there and kind of like a Dairy Queen. You open up a Dairy Queen, and if you have Dairy Queens that are like trying to help people doing a great job, and then you got some Dairy Queens that are like pretty lame. And you're like, this was a terrible Dairy Queen, but this over here was a good Dairy Queen. And unless you have a real good support group for franchises and how you open them, costs, the overhead, going and taking people there and training people, I don't feel like you can make it be successful. And I feel like right now they're not ready to take all that responsibility and all that training and go teach culture to all these new people. I don't feel like they're ready to do that and to execute that. They probably can learn how to do it and make it work, but I feel like for them right now it's better to focus on what they're good at, keep growing, grow at a little bit slower rate, but be able to keep that culture all the way down and be able to take that product to the customers in the way that they want to and continue to be successful. I feel like it's a big risk to go the other way. I don't like that.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Those are all super valid points.
But I also think you guys have good points too. But just for me, I feel like that's my reasoning.
Okay. Yeah.
Do we have to agree on this?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think we just need to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the franchising model for Noodles, including the financial, economic, and organizational consequences. And I think that's kind of what we're doing right now.
Sweet.
So neat. One thing you mentioned, Ken, about the and you have to forgive me here because my brain just completely went blank.
Perfect.
Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay.
Sorry.
Well,
if you remember it, bring it up. Okay.
I'll call you. Yeah.
Anyone else have a thought for the specific advantages and disadvantages of the franchise model?
I had something highlighted.
I feel like they could be wildly successful both ways. I just feel like if you're going to keep the culture and keep that, I mean, they're already being very, very successful.
Well, I think, what does it say? In the reading, it was talking about if they franchise, they could still keep the growth plan that they had already if they were like 50% franchised and 50% company-owned stores. They would still get to keep their their aggressive kind of growth plan. But it also helped with cash flow because anybody who wanted to open a franchise would have to pay them, a huge chunk of change, which helps with that. And then it kind of helps with their organization stuff because once that person is approved, they open their franchise, they pay them the money, then they're in charge of running it. They have a little bit less hands-on from their end for those stores, for the franchise stores. I mean, they still have to handle all the royalty payments and the marketing and all of that, but like the day-to-day running of those stores, they wouldn't have to worry about as much So that would take some of the load off of them too.
Yeah, I agree. Their role in the company, I think, switches a bit between franchising and opening up company stores. And I don't think, exclusively franchising is the is the solution. I think they probably want to keep opening company stores as well because that's a good driver and a different revenue model for them. And you certainly don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. You want to have multiple revenue streams when it comes down to it. So them being able to, as franchisors, instead of looking at strong manager candidates and things like that, instead they're evaluating location, financial capability of potential business owners, and so on. And they're really shifting a lot of the legwork, and then it becomes more of a pure business role for them. They're definitely less out of the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, I think it definitely reduces some of their burdens as their current role. So I agree that it'll switch their roles.
Yeah, I agree that they would decrease some of their current roles in the future because they're going to have to maintain the stores they have now, but it will also open up an avenue of more training involved. And I think as I understand franchises, a part of the people when they pay you their money to become a franchise, most of that gets turned around and put into the training of the company and sending people down there and setting things up in the system. I don't think you make much money off the initial payment. It's later on when you pull off profit and royalties that come up. That's when you make your money. But that's just what I've heard word of mouth, not actually seen on paper.
Yeah, my understanding of it is that the initial investment covers the training and setup fee, and then you're basically providing them a scalable business model right off the bat, and you actually make that money off the scale because it's a solve once, fix many kind of solution.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go out there, or your training team has to go out there and do the setup and the training. But once after the first week or month or whatever it is, then you're just providing them the systems, and I'm basically just the systems, and that's what they're paying in for.
Cool.
Awesome. So anybody else have any noodly comments to make?
I'm hungry.
Thank you. Yeah, as you mentioned Dairy Queen 5 times in one breath. Thanks a lot.
I only eat ice cream there. I never buy their food.
That's the perfect. It's a perfect reason to stop at Dairy Queen.
Well, I have nothing else.
Me neither.
Me neither.
Okay, all right. Yep, we were waiting on you. All right, say the secret word and we can stop the broadcast and hang up. John.
All right, I guess Nicole is not coming.
Okay. Oh well. That probably shouldn't have been recorded.
It's
We can't wait around all night. I don't think it's that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all for your participation. I will send out the link, and there you have it. Everybody have a good evening. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.